Okay, frugal. So it's with. Oh wow, we got John Cleon. So I'm trying to reach out to him. I got to get him on the podcast. If anyone else is on, Joe McClin. I think he might have done that on accident. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna reach out again. Hope all is well on your end, and we'll be in touch soon. So we do this every week. Frugal Fundamentals. There we go. We got Max Ornstil on. Just trying to type in the title real quick. And then I'll have him on because I know he got some things to do. All right. Activity. Wave. All right. Perfect. Yeah, so for anyone that's new, Frugal Fundamentals every Wednesday, virtual workshops with athletes and business professionals that are associated with athletes. Try to help them on and off the field, some of their tips and tricks. So today we got Max Ornstil. Max is someone, a friend, former teammate of mine. He's doing amazing things with his brand and some of his business ventures. So we're definitely going to tap into him, how he's been able to, cultivate different concepts, bring them to life, work in partnership, and doing all those type of things. So Max, I think all you got to do is request. All right, here we go. View. And then go live. Perfect. And then for the people that don't go on live, it'll be repurposed. It'll be on YouTube and repurposed on podcast.
I made it.
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's good?
No, so I'm not gonna take up too much of your time, but thanks for taking the time, man.
Of course. I was trying to give a nice background, but I was too far away from the Wi-Fi, so I had to run a little closer. But it's not as nice now.
But anyways, so for the people that don't know you, give us some context. Like, what are you doing now? A little background. Where you from?
I'm 26 years old. I'm from Oakland, California. I've been in Portland for a little over 4 years now. I just finished up my 4th season playing for Portland Timbers 2. And some ventures that I'm involved in is a creative studio called People on Mars. And then a brand that I started with my sister called the Harwood Collective, where we try and host pop-up dinner parties. We don't try and host, we host pop-up dinner parties throughout Portland and hopefully expanding a little further soon.
No, respect. So let's take it back. So where'd you go to college? I know you're from Oakland, but did you go to college in the area or did you go like away from home?
Yeah, so I went to Santa Clara University, a little bit down south from Oakland, and that's right in the heart of the Silicon Valley. So I definitely felt a lot of that eagerness to start business ventures, being in that area and just kind of being in that environment. There was a lot of just tech talk and tech in pretty much everything you saw and did, especially in school. And I studied finance. And I tell people all the time, I wish I could go back and retake some of those classes and I would have paid a little bit more attention to certain subjects that now are much more relevant to me. But at the time, I was kind of just trying to get through it. But I had a really good experience at Santa Clara University.
No, respect. So, all right, now you're at Portland and you started these 2 ventures, People on Mars and then the one with your sister. How did it come about? Like, what were the steps that you had to take to start something? Because, as you know, a lot of people have great ideas, but then it comes down to the execution. So how are you able to execute?
Right. It definitely took time. My first year in Portland playing professionally, I was just kind of trying to get my bearings with the timing of training and recovery and really just trying to perform to make sure I stayed around in the league and continued to have a professional career. Then once I got into my 2nd and 3rd year, I was able to figure out more of a routine of how I can, leverage my time where I can still feel good physically, but kind of explore some options off the field. And honestly, I can't take credit for starting both of the ventures. People on Mars was started by my roommate and, well, actually my former roommate and my current roommate. One of them is my cousin. But how I got involved in that was, I've always had this passion for wanting to start something myself and be an owner of my own business, but I didn't necessarily have that product or service to offer right away. And so I kind of just kept knocking on doors. I just started sending out emails to people in companies or industries that I was interested in, just to try and get a sit down and learn some information. And so I sent out an email to Tanner Goods. It's a local brand that's all over the West Coast. I think they might have an international flagship too. But I reached out to the info at Tanner Goods. So literally just like, I'm just sending in a customer service, like, hey, yeah. And I said, hey, my name's Max Ornstil. I play for the Timbers. Would love to just have a minute of your time and pick your brain and learn a bit about your story. And I got a response from the co-founder, which was like, it blew me. I was not expecting to get a response from, a sales rep, let alone the co-founder.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, let's grab a coffee. I think it helped putting that I played for the Timbers. I think it's a good thing when you're an athlete to leverage, whatever brand that is backing you. And so we sat down, got coffee. He told me about how he started his business. I think it was 15, 20 years ago, started making t-shirts, and it grew and it grew. And that was kind of right up my alley. And so I kind of just picked his brain for an hour. And then, I told him, I was like, if you ever need any help around they have a warehouse facility. It's actually pretty close to me. I said, if you ever need any help around the facility, I'm eager just to be around, that kind of work and see what goes on. And he said, as we were getting up, he said, maybe we can get you in a lookbook one day. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Thought he was kind of like joking, like zero experience in taking photos. And then like the next day, maybe 2 days later, he sent me an email asking if I could come in and take photos for them for their next lookbook. And I was literally like, all right, like, let's do it. And my cousin, who was my roommate at the time, was a full-time model, like e-commerce. He's on Lululemon, he's on Reebok, everything. And so I've kind of watched him from afar, but, living under the same roof, seeing what he does. I'm like, maybe I can do it. I can try at least. So he gave me some pointers, and I went in the next day or 2 days later and shot a bunch of product shots and ended up being all over their website. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Maybe I could continue to do this.
So now you have a portfolio now.
Yeah, so now I have a nice portfolio, and I kind of have the confidence to know that I could do it, which just kind of pushed the door open even further. I ended up going and meeting with an agency just because I just figured I'd shoot my shot. And I signed with an agency later that year. So that's gotten me a few kind of side projects, which is, nice to supplement a USL income because, it could be tough. But how I got involved with people on Mars was my cousin was a co-owner, and two of my best friends were the other two co-owners. And I just hung out with them essentially all the time. I was in the studio all the time, just kind of observing and, kicking back. And then it turned out that my cousin was moving down to LA, and they needed to fill that spot. And well, actually, no, they didn't need to fill it. I think they were probably just going to take on larger roles. But I stepped in, and they offered, it was an opportunity for me to fill a little bit of the spot. And I offered to fill a bigger portion than, was leaving behind, because I wanted to have a bigger stake. I wanted to be more invested and be able to really make an impact. And so that was actually in the beginning of quarantine. So that was probably maybe in April. Yeah, April. Which was really nice because, as you can imagine, we're all stuck in our houses for a long time, and I was able to kind of put that time to good use in trying to, improve on this business model and kind of make it the best thing possible. And so with that came some renovations to the space. trying to find new revenue streams. We started making some merchandise, which we've come out with a hat and a shirt. We actually had a misspelling on the shirt, so we had to roll that back. Learning on the job.
Yeah.
My time limit for the day on Instagram popped up.
No, you're
So
good.
over my time. So yeah, trying to find new revenue streams with merchandise, increased advertising, because we're a photo studio, and so our main way of drawing in income is having people rent it out. And so just the past few months, trying to grow that business has been it's been a really nice thing to focus on. With everything going on in the world, it was nice to have something else to take my attention away a little bit. And then the venture with my sister, that started back in January. She's essentially my best friend, so we kind of talk about everything, but we both are, or she knows that I'm very eager to be involved in running my own business, and she also has that entrepreneurial spirit. And we both have houses in Portland that are actually like half a mile apart. And so we have family barbecues at my house or her house, lots of parties. We both love hosting. And so she kind of came up with the idea that we should host dinner parties. And then we kind of just talked through that and how can we differentiate this from other dinner parties and make it unique to ourselves. And so we were on a family trip over Christmas, and we started brainstorming themes for dinner parties. And then we talked about, what else could we do? And then we said, well, we could highlight local businesses or businesses that we liked to kind of make it unique to us and put our own personal spin on that. And so we ended up having, I'll say 2.5, because the third was about to happen literally the week that COVID shut the world down.
Yeah.
But we had 2 pop-up dinner parties. One of them was actually at People on Mars, the photo studio. And then the other one was supposed to be it's called Grown, which is a CBD chocolate company, or a CBD company that makes chocolate. And they have a tasting room cafe, and we rented that place out. We had a nice relationship with the company where they were going to help us in making a custom menu that would highlight some CBD meals, pair it with some CBD mocktails, and kind of make it so it's not just us having dinner in this cool space, but you're also learning about this other brand. And so, you're helping us out, we're helping you out. Hopefully we can all get something out of this. And that was unfortunately postponed. I'm going to say postponed because I think it'll happen. Just for now, it's been difficult to try and have those dinners with, the idea being bringing people together, having, face-to-face interaction in a virtual world. And that really, put a hamstring in that. But we're exploring some ideas of potentially, a socially distanced dinner. We've thrown around the idea of Zoom dinners, even though one of our main things is bringing people together. So, as most of the business world, the COVID situation has made everyone think a little differently. And in one thing, the dinner parties, it's taken a hit for sure in terms of trying to get creative with that. But with People on Mars, just the additional time, and it's me and my roommate and one of my best friends, and so it's not like we've had really a restriction of our time spent together. So in a sense, it's helped us kind of put our heads together and come up with some ideas, and it's lit a fire under us to be urgent with our, we need to make a mock-up of this tee or this hoodie, like let's do it right now, we don't need to wait until next week. So in that sense, it's been good for that.
That's amazing. I feel like there's a lot to unpack, but I want to touch on something real quick. Obviously COVID kind of put a damper on everything. How has the adversity that you faced throughout your career, every career has its ups and downs. How have you been able to translate it to what you're doing now in business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they go hand in hand. I was someone who wasn't drafted. I finished out my 4 years. I graduated. So that means I finished my fall season and then went through 3 months of school without playing on a team before I eventually, took that next step. And I played on the U23s right when I graduated from school. And so I was sleeping in my sister's living room, playing soccer in the morning, and then I was working at the Adidas employee store from 4 to 10, the night shift, a few nights a week. And so so that happened. And then I was a practice player for another 4 months after that. And so I didn't sign my first contract until I was 23. And there's many points during that, how long? A year, essentially, since my fall season of college, that I could have said, damn, this isn't for me. I didn't get the call, I didn't get seen, or I didn't get drafted. I'm just going to hang it up and put my finance degree to use somewhere else. But, I had I'm sure you did too, but I had the dream when I was younger, I want to be a professional soccer player. And so I didn't let no be an answer. And so no was said to me a lot through that 1 year, but I had a lot of self-belief. I had a lot of self-confidence, and I had a lot of people in my corner with my family and my friends. And I think one of those things that's translated the most is not taking no for an answer. I think in business, so many times you're going to, give a pitch or tell someone an idea, and, 90% of the people are going to tell you no. And so, but if I think this is dope, or I know this idea is dope, I know that I'm a good soccer player, like, I'm going to try the next door. And maybe he's going to refer me to someone who's going to refer me to someone who's going to say yes. But I think so many people, whether it be sports, business, life in general, they make one attempt and that person says no, and they think that's the end all be all. And I think, some of the most successful people are in those places because, that they know that what they're doing is right. It just, they need to find the right, opportunity or the right partner, that, someone else who shares that same vision. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is just, having belief in your work. The thing that I think is most important is having belief in the work that you've put in,
Yeah.
If I just showed up on, the basketball court and I wanted to shoot a shot from half court and I was trying that for the first time, I would have zero belief. And if someone told me I could do that, I would say no. But if I practice that shot 1,000 times, I could be confident and I can know that I have, I've done it before. That can increase. I think having confidence in the work that you put in the past really sets you up to be able to not take no for an answer. So I think that's one of the things, that's really stuck with me.
No, that's great advice, and I recommend for any athlete that's looking to get into business. I think that's the biggest point you could take away. It may not work for right off the bat, but there's always a way to get it done. And you mentioned having people in your corner, and you obviously are doing business with not only your family but close friends. Sometimes people say it's not good to do business with family. I'm a proponent of doing business with families like the only way. So what advice would you have for someone that's kind of on the fence about that method?
Yeah, no, that's definitely, like, I was thinking about that because I hear that said a lot is don't do business with friends or don't do business with family. But I mean, I'm so close with my family. I'm so close to my friends that, I know that I'm not, who I am or where I am without those people. And so I think, having an honest reflection of those relationships. And I think if you are going to go into business with them, one of the biggest things is setting up boundaries. It's like, we're going to have a meeting once a week about business, but once that meeting's over, you're still my sister, you're still like my best friend. Like, having those boundaries so where kind of you dedicate, when you have those dedicated meetings or that dedicated amount of time to focus on a certain topic, then you can do it. But it allows you a flexibility where if you're just hanging out on the couch watching a game or watching a TV show and an idea comes to mind, you can just bounce that idea off them right next to you versus having to wait until the next day when you see them at the office or sending an email. I think it just gives you, depending on your relationship, I think it just gives you an additional resource. I think there's other benefits that come from going into business with a stranger, but I think the closeness of that relationship and kind of the way that or that you can read each other's minds in a way and know how they think, that is an additional benefit that I think outweighs the other ones. But yeah, I think boundaries are important. and just, I mean, respect. I think the respect is the biggest thing in any relationship. If you, if you have those levels of respect, then I think, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, I love that too because you majored in finance and you didn't say anything about money or like legal terms, but you said it's in boundaries and respect. And I think once you have
Yeah,
that, because sometimes you can take advantage of that relationship and
for
it
sure.
goes against the actual business principle. And I want to
Yeah,
take it back early, because you were diving in deeply into your story and like what's made you successful off the field. But it all started with you being a value add. Like you could have hit up the co-founder or the company of Tanner Goods and say, I'm from Timbers. I want to do this. I want to do that. But you honestly came in eager to learn, and I think
right.
that is what set you apart in the sense of having that opportunity. So for athletes that are looking to partner with different companies or pitch themselves, how did you like have that humble approach of like wanting to learn first and foremost, and then being a value add, offering your services, offering your time, and then being ready for when that opportunity did come?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think you kind of talked about it a little bit, but approaching it with a humble mindset in that, if you're going to talk to any leader or someone, higher up than you in business, they're in that place for a reason, and they've been educated and they've climbed the ladder and they know things that you don't. And I think a lot of times, some athletes may come in with the same swagger or confidence that they carry onto the field into another field in business where they don't have the same experience. They may have certain leverage due to their brand, but in terms of their knowledge, they don't have the same knowledge as people who are very successful in that field. It's like if a business person steps onto the soccer field and thinks they can ping a ball 50 yards, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, just because you're big meat in the business world doesn't mean, So I think just coming in knowing that you don't know everything is going to give you an additional advantage, because a lot of people, if you are educated in the business world or you've been in there for a long time, you might not be as eager to ask those, what are considered stupid questions that can go a long way.
That's true.
So I think one of the things that I think helped me is that sometimes I've been a little embarrassed asking certain questions, but I think I'd rather ask the stupid question and me myself gain a better understanding of what's going on than be too embarrassed to ask a simple question that's going to hinder me, maybe asking a question the next day when I see something similar happen, And I think when people, when I work with people, maybe it's in soccer, maybe it's in something else, and they ask me questions, that lets me know that they're engaged and they're eager to learn. I think that's something that's super undervalued in this world, is that constantly wanting to know more, wanting to get better. I think that's going to get you ahead in whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a bar right there. It's actually more embarrassing to act like you know something instead of having the
Yeah.
confidence or the curiosity to actually ask. And I think that's really
Yeah.
important. Before I let you go, so you're doing a number of wonderful things. I remember I was scrolling through Instagram. I see an Allbirds sponsored post, and I was like, wait, hold on. I know this dude. So talk about how that came about.
uh, um, this could go back to one of my biggest takeaways or my biggest lesson is leveraging your network. And so I had signed with that agency at the end of last year, but I was down in Oakland, so I couldn't really get any work through them. But my neighbor, who is like my little sister, my best friend, she works for Allbirds, and she is one of the main people of their social media.
Okay.
And so
You're well
they
connected, well respected. That's what I've come to learn.
uh, I guess so. And so I mean, she's like my best friend, so she knows everything about me, and she knows that I just signed with an agency that makes it a little more official.
Yeah.
So that when a campaign came along, she's like, oh, let's just use Max. And so she pitched it to her manager. Her manager was super cool and was all for it. And so, I got to give a shout out to Kate Ranahan. She kind of just plugged me. And so, I mean, yeah, I really just got plugged. And luckily I had experience in the field from the last year. And so, when the time came to go to a fitting and to be in front of the cameras, it felt pretty normal because I had that experience in the years past. And I think the two things that that helped me out with that is putting myself out there a year ago to have that experience so that when the opportunity did come, you know, Kate thought about me to throw my name in the hat. Um, and so, yeah, I got plugged by one of my best homies, and I was very grateful for the opportunity. It was really fun. Got some pretty funny pictures from it. And now I've done a few things with them where they send me shoes and I take pictures. And so, you know,
It's safe to say you're like an ambassador now. Every time I look at Allbirds, you're in the picture or something. You're doing something with them.
um, if you want to call it an ambassador, I'll call it that. I might have to check with Kate if that's okay. But yeah, it just worked out that I did good enough work the first time that they felt comfortable enough sending me a second thing to do and then a third thing. And so, yeah, just being, first impressions I think are super important, and just, making sure those relationships you know, so much of, I feel like, I mean, business in general is doing work with people again and then repeat orders or repeat customers, and so I think treating everyone the way you wish to be treated is such a universal rule for life, but also in business, because, you know, I would say for the majority of us, for at least the target that we don't want just one-time customers. We want to build relationships with customers and have them come back. And I think, the best way to do that is just, try and create those longer lasting relationships with, respect.
No, that's what it's all about. People do business with people they like, and obviously,
Yeah.
being on top of mind equals more opportunities. But also being intentional with your networking and your relationships leads to more meaningful opportunities as well. And you talked about you studied finance. Obviously, not everyone that's an athlete is a millionaire, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you talked about building an extra multiple streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you've learned in your 4 years as a professional soccer player from a personal finance standpoint that you'd recommend? A disclaimer for anyone listening: this is not financial advice. Still consult with your team. And then,
Yeah.
like, how important is it to, even while you're playing, to look in other ways to possibly make some extra dollars?
Yeah. I mean, if I had any advice, like I said, it's not, don't take it for every word, but I think starting some form of investment, the earlier the better. And I'm still early enough into that where I'm not necessarily reaping the benefits yet, but I can already see that, I started putting aside a certain amount a month, one for a retirement account and then another for like a mutual fund investment account, and then I have another one that just me personally where I want to pick my own stocks and kind of see how I do based on my knowledge from school. And I'm not taking out a crazy amount of my paycheck, but I take out a little bit at a time, and seeing the growth that that's gotten uh, just from the rates, just goes to show you that, starting a year earlier or 2 years earlier or, 5 years earlier, it makes a pretty big difference when you're putting away just a little bit each month. And so I know a lot of people say, I mean, even myself included at the time, I was like, I'm not making much. How am I supposed to invest
Yeah.
anything? But if you have $20, don't go to that movie, or COVID, there's no movies. So you're saving the movie money, put the
That's true.
movie money in, or there's not as many date nights anymore. So, put $10, $20, $30, that adds up over time. So I think just putting a little bit away early will make a big difference in the long run. And then what was the second part of that question? Something about,
No, just like any advice that you would have. You already mentioned that, but like some personal finance tricks that you've used in your 4 years. But I feel like you
there's
answered. the right. I mean, you answered it already. You know,
Okay.
whether you put $1 in or $5 in, you know, it may not seem a lot, but you know, over time,
Yeah.
like, you know, you're glad you did that. So,
Oh,
practical advice.
I remember. Uh, I was going to relate it to why it's important to try and find not necessarily a secondary income, but just
Oh, yeah.
another interest outside of soccer or whatever sport you're doing. One, it could be mentally exhausting to be plugged into the sport that you're playing or just this sports environment 24/7. You know, it's good to have a little bit of a way to decompress and kind of put your mind somewhere else. Or else it could be just a vicious cycle of you, oh, I had a bad day at training. I'm just going to think about training. And then you don't really get to, it's going to affect you the next day. You don't perform at your highest level. But then on top of that, aside from it affecting performance or being a positive for performance to have somewhere to, you know, spend your time elsewhere, um, it sets you up for when the time comes that you do want to, you know, give up the sport you're doing or you have to retire. It gives you not only experience, but also just it lets you kind of explore different avenues of, you know, maybe you want to get some sort of internship or, you know, spend some time looking at a financial company during the time while you're playing and you realize, holy crap, I do not want to do this.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
that takes away some time from when you do finish your sport. You try and go down that sector and you realize then you don't like it, you know, versus, okay, and let me pivot while I'm still have this flexibility, because what being an athlete provides you, I think, is a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to experiment with different interests, because you don't have the same time commitment.
Hmm.
And if you just want to go in for a meeting or a coffee, you know, all that takes is an hour or a day. And so it kind of gives you the ability to explore what you may be interested in when the time comes and give you a little bit of a head start, you know. And so I'm glad that I've been able to, you know, I'm nowhere near where I want to be or doing the level of what I want to do in both respects, but I think it gives me a bit of a head start and experience and an outlet, you know, for the time being.
No, that's a great point. It's almost like you're at the buffet line and you can choose what food you like without having to like be stuck with that meal. And I really appreciate you taking
Facts.
the time. I know you got to go like now, but where can people find you? How can they get some merch? What's in store for you next?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Sir Maximus. The photo studio that I am a part of is called People on Mars. We have some merchandise coming out soon, very soon, so keep on the lookout for that. And then the brand with my sister is called the Harwood Collective, which we will hopefully begin some dinner parties back cracking when it is safe and we're able to. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I appreciate you having me. This was awesome, for real.
Nah, man, definitely. So I hope you guys all enjoyed that. It will be repurposed on our YouTube channel, IGTV, and podcast at a later time. Really appreciate you once again, Max. Definitely keep in touch.
Hey, thanks, bro.
All right, catch you later, bro.
Peace.